shot. Sean Mott and company. Sean Mott elevates and scores.
All against Atkins in the end zone. Atkins pulls it down for the game winner. Upsetting the home crowd at Salt Lake. Repeating the triple spike from Ben Yacht.
Munoz sends a rocket. Garrett Martin trailing edge. Woo!
Welcome to another year of Live with Lep. I'm Evan Lepler. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. We have got a great show. You just saw highlights from our 4 participants this evening. Marquez Brownlee of the New York Empire gets us started. And then we got Sean Mott, 5th all-time in assists in UFA history, to be followed by Colorado's Atkins, and then Seattle's Garrett Martin. With no further ado, let's welcome in MKBHD, Marquez Brownlee of the New York Empire. Thanks so much for doing this, Marquez. How you feeling tonight?
Thanks for having me. I feel good. I feel great.
It's great to have you here. We could start with any number of topics, but I want to talk about Ultimate, which is probably what you want to talk about too. You joined the Empire in 2018, and then this franchise rose to unprecedented heights in professional Ultimate. What do you remember about what your expectations were when you made the jump from Philly in 2017 to New York in 2018? Experienced something of a discombobulated, turbulent season that year before you had the breakthrough down the stretch, and it's kind of been, for the most part, smooth sailing and greatness ever since. What do you remember about the beginning?
I'd played for a couple other teams before, and I do rem well, I wasn't the only one that joined that year. That was a pretty a big year for new signings for New York. So I think I'd been playing in Philly, as you can see, for a year, and it was a pretty long commute. And I'd always played against New York, and they were always the bad guys. I didn't know if I wanted to play for New York, but then my coach went to New York, and there was just some continuity. Some GSU club players went to New York as well, so I went with them. Um, and so yeah, there was a lot of new people on the same team at the same time. But this guy named Bo, I don't know if you've heard of him, decent player, brings winning with him a lot. So we kind of used that year to figure things out, and we eventually were able to win. So yeah, it was a pretty fun little turnover there.
What was your first impression of Bo when you met him and got to play with him for the first time?
I honestly, so I'd match up against him a lot. I'd play a lot of D, and I was just annoyed that he would catch everything. Mostly, I remember like blocks that I would normally get on people. I would like hit the disc right before it touched their hands, or I would play really good position coverage, and he would catch it anyway, and I found that really annoying. Um, but yeah, no, great player, obviously, and but also a leader. And even if you don't say anything, just being in that position and instilling confidence in your teammates, that's a big part of that type of leadership.
So in 2018, the Empire break through. They shocked Toronto in the East Final for the first time. You lose a tight game with Dallas at championship weekend, but then it was a long time until the Empire lost again. Undefeated in 19, obviously. Good season in 21, losing in the final. Undefeated in 22, in 23. And that took us to this past year when obviously you lost some key players, but you still were really good. What have been the main takeaways from your perspective as you look back on the 2024 season, which did not live up to the standard that New York had set previously? It wasn't a bad year by any means, but certainly wasn't what you gotten used to in terms of winning nonstop.
Yeah, well, I mean, nothing lasts forever. I mean, we set the bar pretty high. We obviously, all the people still there really want to win every single game we play. But even through those undefeated seasons, yeah, we wanted to win every game. But I think we all knew that it was more about peaking at the right time, building the team that we wanted to, and all sorts of other things that come from playing on this team. So it didn't really, obviously it sucked to lose for the first time in a while, but it didn't hurt that bad once we lost. Once we lost, it was like, okay, we are a team that can lose and still achieve our goals. We can still make progress. We can still get better as the year goes on. And I think we did. Um, but obviously it didn't end the way we wanted. So we are back to where we started. We have unfinished business again. It's kind of fun.
How did you personally handle the emotions of the way it ended with your old teammate Jeff making that great play to knock you guys out.
You know, Jeff's a gamer. It's obviously a little surreal because it's been so many years of going to championship weekends. So it kind of felt like it just abruptly ended. Like, oh, this is it, huh? This is it feels like it's not supposed to be over. It feels like we should have another game to play, even though we lost this one. So uh yeah, you're just processing and you drive home and you obviously you can watch tape about what you did wrong, but at a certain point you just Jeff does Jeff stuff sometimes. So yeah, they played a great game. We played a game that wasn't quite good enough to beat them, so that's why they moved on.
Despite not making championship weekend, you still played maybe more ultimate this past year than any other year of your career between
Yep.
pro and club and also representing Team USA and winning a world championship. You just turned 31 last month. How's the body feeling relative to your prime years in your mid late 20s?
I would say, I would say that the bringing up those two things at the same time make a lot of sense. Like playing a ton of Ultimate and not feeling like I did when I was in my 20s. Those things go together. No, I feel okay. I feel like I've done more work on my body in the last year than ever because of how I want to feel like I was in my 20s. A couple nagging injuries here and there, patellar tendon here and Achilles there, little things that like don't take me off the field, but really suck to play with. So I was still going to go to Japan and Australia and play on these amazing tournaments and have a lot of fun with it. But how much more fun would it have been if I was healthy? That's inspired me to put a lot more work in. So um, yeah, that'll hopefully be. I'm not going to feel like my 20s again, but I would like to get close.
Good deal. You told us before we came on the air that you actually signed your contract for 2025 a few hours ago. Is there a decision to be made there, or is it just a formality of you're back with the Empire? Like, what is that like?
Um, That's a good question. I mean, I don't I've never signed a multi-year contract, so it's a decision every year where it's okay, here's where I live, here's where I could play, here are the teams nearby. Obviously, I've played for Philly. There was a New Jersey team, now there isn't. There's other commutable teams nearby, but um, for me, playing pro is about obviously playing for a good team, but also potentially playing for a team that has a chance to win and playing for a franchise who you are comfortable giving visibility to and all sorts of other things like that. And New York's been that for me for years, and that hasn't changed. So I was happy to resign, and I'm looking forward to running it back.
Good deal. I'm curious to ask you because it seems to me like you pretty intentionally divide your real life's work, which is phenomenal and successful and really cool, with Ultimate, which is also phenomenal and successful and cool. But how do you approach when those two things kind of meld, come together inevitably?
Yeah, that is a good question. It's very intentional. I've played Ultimate for a long time. Like this is a sport that I owe a lot to and want to share with people. And it just turns out that there are some versions of the sport that are built to be shareable in a way. And that's what, the AUDL is built, and that's what I try to share. And people can buy tickets and go and watch highlights and all sorts of stuff. So I try to find the right times, the right ways so that people who are interested in what I'm doing can follow it. So sometimes people do go to games. Sometimes people watch the broadcast when it's live. Um, yeah, club is harder to share. You already know this. Like people can't go watch on the sidelines. I mean, they can, but it's not as fun. Uh, and so I do have to kind of think about that when I'm sharing the sport.
I don't know if you noticed, we had some 2013 New Jersey Hammerheads footage there, I think from your first game
Saw
up in
that.
Toronto. What do you remember about the Hammerheads? They are maybe the most foreign team to me. I feel like I've heard stories about every team from 2012, and I
Oh
joined
my
the league in
God.
2014, and the Hammerheads were like,
Yeah.
wait, did they exist? But you know they existed.
Oh, we existed. Yeah. Okay, this Toronto game, this was their home opener if I'm remembering this right, this was the largest crowd that had ever watched an Ultimate game. and it was like 2,200-ish people or something like that. And I remember, we got there and it's like, okay, we're the Hammerheads. We just won our preseason game against Rochester. Like we're feeling ourselves a little bit. And Toronto was really good. And we came out and we got booed by 2,000 people and it was amazing. And then we went out there and I think we got doubled up. I think we got beat really bad.
They did that to a lot of
And
teams.
yeah, I mean they rolled through the East and they had a great year, obviously. So I came away from that thinking like, okay, I still am confident in my abilities as a player, but clearly we all have a long way to go, and these guys are really good. We have a lot to learn just from this one game. But I don't know why. For some reason in my head, I was always like, yeah, we'll beat them next time. We're gonna get them next time. There's no way they beat us like that again, and they for sure did. But yeah, it was fun. It was fun playing in front of 2,200 people.
That's and hopefully more events like that to come. I was thinking about difficult questions to ask you to throw you on the spot, and the toughest one I think I could ask you. You've played with a lot of great players, both club, pro, national team. Who's the best ultimate player you have ever played with?
I have no idea how to answer that. What's funny is when I've played, I'm not a specialist. I take some things from everyone else's game. And so I've played with players who have superpowers of like specific parts of their game. So I'm not going to say there's one best player I've ever played with. Maybe this is a cop-out answer. But I would like to have like a version of like seven or eight of the teammates that I've had in my own game. I would like to have Jeff Babbitt's hops and Chris Kotcher's speed and Jimmy Mickle's throws and Jack Williams' versatility and Jabron Muser's defense. I would like to have all of that, but these are all superhumans. So yeah, there's a lot of great players. I learn a lot from them. I take a little piece of their game every time I play against them. As a D-line player on Empire, I guard these people a lot. So I learn a lot about what they're actually good at.
I love that answer because people all the time ask me like who's my favorite broadcaster, and I would give it the same version of the answer that you just gave, that there are a lot of broadcasters that I like certain
Yeah.
things about them and try to add that to my game as a
Like
broadcaster.
who?
So,
Shout them out.
well, Mike Gorman, who called the Celtics for 4.5 decades, just retired last year. He's kind of my favorite just because I grew up listening to him. But
Mhm.
his ability to be casual, but also to punctuate the play when it happens and be there for it. I mean, Jim Nance to have his voice and to have kind of his calming but also highlight voice. Sean McDonough, his hilarity. I could talk about this for hours, and
Yeah.
I would love to talk about it for hours, but people don't want to hear from me. They want to hear from you, and you have interviewed so many cool people. What's the interview that you did for your YouTube channel that made you say, "Wow, I got to talk to this person the most"?
That one's easy. So I'd never really done interviews before. The first interview I ever did was a virtual interview with the CEO of Motorola at the time. This was like 2009 or something, which was kind of cool. And then I'm still a teenager. I'd never interviewed anyone in real life. And then I get an email from Nike during Kobe's farewell tour season. And he said, Kobe's coming out with his last shoe as an active player, the Kobe Nines. Do you want to do an interview talking with him about the shoe? And I'm like, first of all, is this a prank? Let me look this up. Let me see if this is actually a Nike guy. Like I'm like, this can't be real, but it was. And so yeah, I got to go to the Staples Center. We're in like the basement of the Staples Center. I had a couple friends help me set up the camera and the mic or whatever, and we get all our cameras and stuff set up. Still not really sure if it's real, but I'm in the basement of the Staples Center, so maybe it is. So the guy's like, all right, so here's what's going to happen. Kobe's going to come in this store right here. He's going to do this interview here. Then he's going to do this one, and then yours. And then he's going to do a phone interview and peace out. And then sure enough, Kobe walks in. He's got like nine, 10 people around him. He's got this entourage. He goes and sits down over there. I'm like, oh, this is really happening. Okay, I got to make sure I know my questions. He does the second interview. He does the third one. So now I'm like, all right, I better not mess this up. He comes over, shakes everybody's hands. Is like, yeah, I've seen what you do. Like, I've read about you. Like, keep it up. We do this
Things
whole
like
interview
that.
on camera.
But nowadays, I mean, you
Yeah, this one. And And then he goes over on the couch and does the phone interview. And as he's doing the phone interview, I'm like, I forgot to take a picture. Is it weird if I like ask for a picture? He does finish the phone interview, and I'm like, can I get a picture real quick? I get a picture, and then he leaves. And I was kind of numb the whole time. I was like, how do I talk tech with Kobe? I threw some tech questions at him, some shoe questions, some design. And watching it back, I've learned more every time I've watched it back because he was good at being interviewed. He kind of helped guide me as a first time interviewer, as someone who's been in the spotlight for 20 years. Um, and it was pretty surreal even now that I got to do that and that sort of kicked off all the rest of the interviews I've done. So shout out to him, shout out to that opportunity, shout out to Brian at Nike at the time. And I think that's my easy number one answer.
That's super cool. Is there one person out there that you really want to interview that you haven't gotten to connect with yet? That's kind of number one on your wish list?
Hmm. Um, I've always wanted to talk to Sean Mott. I feel like he'd be an interesting dude to talk to. I don't know if I'm going to get that opportunity, but I've watched his game for a long time. I know he hasn't talked to media very much, but I think that'd be pretty sick.
Marquez Brownlee, it is your lucky day. We make dreams come true here on Live with Lep. Let's bring
Way, no
in
way.
from the Philadelphia Phoenix, the great Sean Mott. There he is.
Hey y'all.
That's
Sean,
crazy.
thanks for being here. Marquez, this is the opportunity of your lifetime. What's the one question you've always wanted to ask Sean and you've never had the chance?
Um, I've always wanted to know why you throw backwards. I don't know, you probably don't think about it that often, but I'm just curious, like, where'd you learn that? Why don't you throw the right way? Just kind of a basic thing.
Yeah, I never really did well with authority, so kind of learned my own way to do things, and now I throw left-handed.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, that's a great question, and this has been awesome. Marquez, what do you remember about being teammates with Mott in 2017? What's it been like dealing with him as an adversary? And then you guys finally got to play on the O line together this fall in club. I mean, what's your take me through your evolution with Sean as a teammate, adversary, and teammate again?
Well, I think it's funny people don't know how long Mott and I have been playing with slash against each other. We both played Devil, so like this is like youth, this is pre-college, like youth ultimate championship type stuff. He played Pennsbury. I don't know if I ever guarded him when I played CHS, but
So
eventually, yeah, maybe. But then, obviously we played against each other in club and pro, and then there's GSU. Um, and so we overlapped and we've kind of like played on the same team and different teams a lot in the area. Um, yeah, I mean that's the dude you want to play with, not against. I don't know why people let him get through his 1-2 step. He's gonna high point it every time. I know how to guard Mott. Nobody else seems to want to, but yeah, it's kind of it's fun. I'd rather be on his team than against him. I'll put it that way.
Mott, what do you remember about Marquez before he was famous?
yeah, I mean, like Kez said, we've known each other for a while. I remember when he had his first couple of videos up in high school, and everybody's like, "Oh, that's an interesting hobby." And now looking back at it, he makes all of us look dumb. Just phenomenal work ethic. I mean, good guy to
There's
be.
the first
Why you gotta
video
put
right
that?
there.
No, no. Oh, I hate seeing that video because it's just so foreign. It's so long ago.
So of course I
I mean, the lighting's not great, just the backlighting. You do naturally a better job now, but you had a pretty cool way of presenting yourself even at that age, and obviously it's worked out for you.
Yeah, it's a learned skill. I would put it that way. I was not good back then.
Well, I'll tell you, I've been recording some YouTube videos at home for an upcoming series we're doing on the UFA site, and sitting in front of a green screen, just trying to bring the right energy, the right tone.
Yeah.
All respect to what you've done, because I know it's been super intentional, and I could pick your brain for an hour on it, Marquez, but it's not easy. And the number of retakes that I do, I'm sure it's the same with you, but you make it seem supernatural. And yeah, we could talk for a long time, but we'll let you go. Thanks so much for joining us this evening, Marquez. Best of luck as you get ready for the upcoming 2025 season, and we'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate it. Talk to you later.
Thanks, Marquez Brownlee, MKBHD. And now we got Sean Mott, Marquez's teammate from way back when. Sean, thank you for being here as well. How are you? How's life in Philly these days?
Good. Yeah, a little cold. Storm just came through here, so people are hibernating a little bit, but it was nice to get some snow on the ground and go outside in it.
Do you enjoy playing Frisbee in the snow?
I think any like adverse conditions I like playing in because it shows the people who really have the technical skill.
It's funny you mention that because the oldest clip that we found of you playing Frisbee was in a monsoon in Randall's Island, New York. I think your first year with the Phoenix.
Yeah.
What do you remember about this monsoon game against the Empire?
Yeah, at Randall's Island. That was a interesting game. Nobody wanted to be there. I was probably like, I don't know, 19, 20 in that video. So that was my first time playing a high level game in those types of conditions.
So you've obviously been playing Ultimate for a long time, and you have endured a lot of tough seasons as one of the best players on a team that didn't win very much. How have you learned to deal with that and allow it to improve you and better you as a player and a person?
Yeah, Phoenix historically just hasn't been that great. I've come back to this team every year, and it's one of the teams I continually come back to because it feels like such a family to me. Everybody treats each other with respect. You won't find like a tighter knit group of guys. And that's the reason why I can just like push through and try to come out the other side, which I think could be possible this year.
Interesting. What's the perspective of kind of the offseason? You know, James Pollard has been a good player for y'all. He leaves in a notable signing. You have a new coaching staff coming in with a Phoenix legend and Dave Brandolph and taking over for Roger Chu. I mean, what are your thoughts on kind of what the offseason has been like, and why are you so optimistic about 2025, Sean?
Yeah, so I mean, James obviously a big blow, very good player. Arguably the best and a quarter player in the league, other than somebody up in Boston maybe. But yeah, I mean, the youth system in Philly has really been developing well lately. Multiple people picked for the U20 and U24 teams. Trying to recruit some of those guys, and some of those guys being in the area could be helpful. And also the YCC's team just ended up winning their youth championship last year. So hopefully recruit some of those kids that are turning 18 and see how the youth does for us this year.
Has there been any sort of team activity yet to build culture, community, camaraderie for the upcoming season?
We've had a couple like unofficial like indoor sessions. It's hard to get outdoor space right now where everybody will come. But the indoor sessions are great. Not mandatory by any means, but we do have our first open tryout coming this weekend.
One thing about you that I've always respected, and whenever I ask anybody else about you, they talk about your leadership and just how you have such a presence and such a purpose and such a passion for competing as hard as you can and trying to bring the best out of yourself and your team. Where does that come from? Who did you look up to earlier in your career that you learned from, and what does it mean to you to be a leader of this organization that's trying to compete with these, top level teams like New York, DC, Boston?
Yeah, I think it's hard to pin it down to one certain person in my career. There's obviously been a bunch of people who have influenced me throughout the community. and not just in Frisbee either, but just sports in general. I think my compassion comes from my high standard of holding myself and my friends. Um, I won't settle for anything less than extraordinary, and I continually try to better myself. So I think just holding those high standards are what makes the leadership possible because I won't accept anything less than that.
I asked this to Marquez as well. You're just a few weeks younger than Marquez. You just celebrated your 31st birthday too. How's the body feeling now, and how does it compare to how it felt a few years ago? What are you doing to try to stay young?
Yeah, a lot more gym time than I'm used to. My younger days, I was known as not the biggest advocate for working out. But yeah, a lot more gym time, a lot more rehab, a little bit of flexibility work now. But yeah, I mean, just a lot of playing. I always thought that playing is the best way to keep in shape for Frisbee. Um, I mean, a little banged up now. Nate Little gave me a good shot at our New Year's 3v3 tournament, but I'll be fine for tryouts.
What does a good shot mean?
Just a jump ball where I'm not supposed to win those against him.
He's young and springy. That's for sure. Uh, what did it mean to you to get the Phoenix to the playoffs a couple years ago, the way you did? And obviously, you played really well in that playoff game at DC. You didn't get the better of the breeze that night, but it felt like the past few years the Phoenix have been a different level of a contender than they've been earlier in your career. What did it mean to you to get to that point, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, it means a lot. We've been trying to raise the standard for a while. We talked about this when Roger was in his decision-making process for this year. We really raised the floor of the team in the past couple of years. We've become a team that wins the games we're supposed to win, but doesn't necessarily challenge against the big dogs and win those games. So we're looking to take that next step in these upcoming years.
You've had a lot of close calls with the big dogs. I mean, I don't need to tell you that, but overtimes, double overtimes, crazy buzzer beaters. Has there been a moment after a loss when you've just kind of said to yourself, F this, I can't do this anymore, to come so close and fall short?
Yeah, I mean, the one that really stung for me in recent memory is in DC last year when we went to double overtime. Um, I ended up having a really bad fourth quarter and also through the turnover in double overtime. Um, but yeah, that one really stung because I thought that was our chance to really get them.
Sean, before we let you go, I want to ask you about one other memory from your career. The very first UFA All-Star game you played in 5.5 years ago now, the summer of 2019 in Madison. Uh, what do you remember about that night, which turned out to be a pretty epic game with like the top players around the country really trying their asses off to beat each other, and that game went to double overtime too.
Yeah, it was interesting because going into it, nobody really knew what each other wanted to do. Some people were like, are we going to treat this like the NFL treats this and play this like flag football? Are we going to actually try and beat each other? So I think the first couple quarters were feeling each other out, and then everybody started to get competitive, and it really turned into a good game.
What do you remember about the closing moments of that game? There was like a buzzer beater to get it to overtime, and then double OT,
Yeah,
and a great crowd obviously as well in Madison.
the play I remember the most is the one where Rowan climbs the ladder on yacht, and I was just phenomenally impressed by that.
Yeah, that was a fun night. I missed the second All-Star game a couple of years ago in Portland, but I remember that night in Madison super fondly. Um, Sean, thanks so much for being with us tonight. I'm curious to get your thoughts on the next guest this evening, another Philly guy.
Yeah.
I understand that you and Alex Atkins have like played league, against or with each other. What are your memories of young Atkins coming up in the Philly scene?
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows kind of Acton's personality. Very controversial. Some people love him, some people hate him. But yeah, I mean, he can obviously play, and you can't deny his skills. We were in the same program at one time, but never on the same team with Patrol and Citywide. But yeah, I think everybody can say that they would want him on their team.
Yeah, you didn't specify whether you loved him or you hated him, but we've got him right here. Kins, you can unmute yourself. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, say it, Sean.
This isn't your podcast. I don't know.
Not answering my questions.
Alex,
Hello,
I
Evan.
mean, yeah, it's good to see you. Tell me about your first memory of watching Sean Mott play and, seeing this guy who would grind through all of these years to be one of the most prolific scorers in the history of the league. He's currently fifth all time in assists, 10th all time in scores.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, he was just a number of one of the guys that like when you're growing up, you just like I remember being so excited, like if I was gonna match up against someone like Sean and like, whether it was like Winter League or like these like random fucking leagues when I was like 16. And it was just like I feel like those moments are so foundational for my ultimate career because like a lot of people it's just like a winter league game. But like for me, it was like it felt so big because like you look up to these guys and you want to like go prove yourself. And so, it was important to me back in the day.
Kins, have there ever been any conversations between you and the Phoenix? Have they tried to bring you back home?
I mean, I wouldn't say like too serious. I mean, you see James and like ownership and stuff at events, and there's like jokes flying around about coming back. So nothing too serious though.
Sean, do you think Kins's personality is too much for the Phoenix, or would he fit in okay?
No, I think he knows himself that he would do just fine in Philadelphia again.
Good stuff. Sean, thanks so much for being here and chatting with Marquez and Atkins and myself. Happy belated birthday, happy New Year, and best of luck getting ready for the upcoming season.
Yeah, happy holidays, y'all. Thanks for
Yeah,
having me.
See you,
thanks,
man.
Sean. Good seeing you. Alex Atkins, ladies and
Hello,
gentlemen,
it's me.
it is Adele. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How you doing, Evan?
I'm doing good. Hanging out. It's cold here in North Carolina, and I understand it's been pretty chilly and wintry in Colorado too.
Yeah, we just got some snow, so went to the gym today. Usually, I have my home gym, but my girlfriend has a membership. I get a free guest pass, so went to that one today because the garage is pretty chilly.
That's clutch. That's clutch. How is your content creation journey going? I wanted to ask you, like, when did who had the idea for pod practice? I'm guessing it was Mikey, but
No, 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 no. Come on, give me some credit here. I'll give you the full rundown. It started the first year on Summit, and we had, all those marijuana sponsorships, and I liked Hot Ones. So the initial core idea started from doing a podcast called High Ones, where you, instead of doing a spicier wing, you smoke weed every question. So instead of getting spicier and spicier, you get higher and higher for each question. That evolved. So that was like the whole podcast idea initially. And through some conversation, it turned into more of a normal podcast. Mikey just is like a weird introverted tech guy, and we would talk for like 3 hours. And he knew I kind of had the idea. And one day he was like, well, I have all the podcast equipment. Like, why don't we just do it? Because it really sparked, like we had like a 3 hour long conversation in my garage one day. And we were like, we just have, like, why don't we just record this? Like, it's just a good conversation. We could just put it on, out there and see if maybe people like it. So that's really where it started.
I appreciate that. And I've had that similar thought in the past too, like after a 90-minute phone conversation with somebody, like that'd be really interesting to, record, listen back, share with folks. And you guys do a really
100%.
good job. And you guys, like, you're not performing, and you're just yourselves, and you're kind of brutally honest. And I like, are there times when you feel Mikey's trying to coach you up during those things subtly, and you're like, Mikey,
Oh,
leave me
for
alone?
sure. I feel like Mikey uses it as an opportunity to really be his most direct with me, like get it out there. It's a win-win. It's a space we created to give feedback that he can do. And also,
Yeah.
I think people tend to like that honesty, like you mentioned. I mean, that's my policy, open and honest.
It's super real. It was fun having you in the UFA broadcast booth for the season opener last year in Salt Lake against DC, and you've become a fixture at championship weekend. How
Yeah,
have you
not in
enjoyed
the
that
way I want to
experience?
be, I will say.
Well, that's true. I hear that. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's talk about the broadcasting side, and then we'll talk about how you're not going to be a broadcaster anymore, so you can play at championship weekend. What have been your biggest takeaways from these championship weekend broadcasting opportunities?
I mean, one, how much of a blast championship weekend is. I think it's one of the reasons I mean, I've just been really wanting to get there as a team because I've gone the past 2 years and I've been like, this is a really fun atmosphere. I think it's just something a little different in the sport. And it just feels it's exciting, and I think it's something that in other areas of the sport you don't really get, just like people talking about it. There's stats, there's like these things that there's more discussion to be had that you just aren't really available. So it just gets me excited. And then like it's just, I would like to be there playing. So I do get some jealousy of watching, the players making big plays and like all the hype around it. And it fires me up for sure. But like the whole thing is just really enjoyable. And I've really like appreciated being out there, and it's been just a blast.
Yeah, that's well said. It is a really good fan experience, like for fans out there. And every single year I meet, some fans that came from a really long distance away, either for a particular team or just because they wanted to experience championship weekend, and they always have a blast. It truly is like, Club Nationals is certainly special, Worlds is special, but there is nothing like UFA championship weekend. And I know they're gonna announce the site of 2025 championship weekend sometime in the next few weeks.
That's exciting.
Not gonna give that away.
That's exciting.
I think I know where it is, but we'll hold off on that. So, how are the Summit gonna get to championship weekend again? I mean, last year, high expectations, a couple injuries, and it just didn't work out. Some heartbreaking losses along the way. I mean, I'm sure you've spent hours, if not days and weeks, thinking about it all. Where have your thoughts taken you in terms of what went wrong?
Oh God. I mean, you know, it's always tough. Like you never know exactly what went wrong, and there's so many things you could attribute like losing to. But I mean, I think a lot of it too is just being like a new team, new organization. Like you're just kind of learning as the seasons go on. And so like we had really good success that first year. Like we came in the West, like kind of dominated. And I think, there's a little bit of beginner's luck there. And there's just, Ultimate's really big here in Colorado. You have Johnny Bravo, the club team as well. And I think getting everyone kind of like bought in on the summit, like wanting to do the summit. Like I said, like I'm in because I go to championship weekend. Like I want to be there. I want to play in it. I want to like feel that energy. And so I think it just takes time to create that culture in the team and get it going through everyone, because I think like there's no question we have the talent. So just, creating a really healthy culture that, feeds commitment and gets everyone bought in. I think we're going to get back there.
There was one thing that happened last year. You played three teams from the Central Division, which was different.
Right.
And I remember, TK, Tim Kafalas, and Mikey Lund making a really astute point that like those teams with their histories in this league and the rule set and all the intricacies, they play UFA Ultimate better than you guys did last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought like that was I don't know if that was a difference in a game, but it's certainly noticeable. And I'm curious if there's been anything done in your off season to try to rectify that, to embrace. I'm not saying you're not embracing what the rule set is, but like there's no
Yeah.
substitute for experience, obviously. But
Mhm.
what do you think about that?
No, I mean, I think, yeah, it's like I said, like, I think just kind of we came in that first year and we had all the talent and like at a certain level, like you're playing ultimate. But I do think that there's a lot of UFA tactics that are just going to help a bunch. And I think going to those Central Division teams was pretty eye opening on just like different things that you can do. You know, we haven't really got into the whole double teaming thing yet, and I think we're gonna, try to lean into it a little bit more, at least try to utilize it. It's super effective. And I know for me personally, like it just takes time. Like sometimes I'm still out there like counting a stall, and I have to like make sure I shut up or different things
Yeah,
like that.
unsportsmanlike conduct foul.
100%. I'm not trying to get any of those because whatever. Like I don't need any excuse to get another unsportsmanlike. So I think like really I think it's like what you said. It's the experience. I think, and when you lose and you don't have the success that you can have like last year, it's a really good opportunity. And it's like, sometimes it's really the only ways that you can learn and being like, all right, wow, this is a good wake up call. And I think, we're going to come out really strong this year.
I know you haven't lacked talent in the past, but you got more talented this past week with the announcement that Tobias Brooks was joining the team. I know you've played with him a little bit. He led the Flyers to the championship game this past year. What's it going to be like being his teammate in the UFA?
I mean, it's going to be awesome. He's so good and he's so young. So, I mean, I think he's just so exciting, like seeing young players that good. It just fires me up. Like I just love being around those types of dudes. It just gives me energy and like his playmaking ability, his, commitment to wanting to be a really good player. I just love it. And it's going to be awesome. Like just a blast.
There are enough discs to go around between you and him and Quinn and everyone else on the offense?
100%. I mean, there's only one disc, but you can figure it out. I trust in TK that he's gonna work something out to you get the most out of everyone.
There have been some great atmospheres at Summit games, and I've loved coming out to the Rocky Mountains area. Obviously, it's beautiful, and you just get off the plane and drive away from the Denver airport, and you're just like, why don't we live here? Like this is
Yeah.
unbelievable. What's an experience you've had, before, during, after a game at Marv K or at UD a couple of years ago, where you had an experience with a fan that has stuck with you?
Yeah, I mean, the first one that comes to mind is I don't remember. It was after some loss, so you're pretty just like, well, really what it is like, and now I'm thinking about a lot of the memories that are flooding in. Like a lot of the times, when you win, it's easy. Hooray. Like that's great. We all feel good. But when you lose, but like you go look in the crowd and like you see some friends, you see some family. I have the first memory that came up was like tossing with a couple younger kids on the field after. And it kind of brings me back to just like, it's hard in the moment. We're competitive. You want to win all those things. But like, I just remember throwing a disc with like some kids who, could care less about like what the final score was. Like they know we lost, but it doesn't affect their lives at all. And you're just like, all right, like we do this because it's really fun. It's humbling and it's refreshing, honestly.
Finish this sentence for me. The Colorado Summit will win the West in 2025
Ah, if the world keeps existing, like, yeah, I feel good. I know that, there's a lot of people that want to win it, but right now I'm feeling confident in the squad and that we're going to turn it around.
Why is it going to be different than last year, Alex?
You learn, I think like personally and as a city and a state, like I just feel like we bounce back from these types of things. I think that's a strength of mine and also just like places that I am. And I think the state as well. And a lot of the other players and the coaching staff. So I feel really good that it sucked last year, and because it sucked, like we're, extra motivated.
Before I bring in Garrett and have you chat with him for a minute, I want to ask you about the crazy stretch of games last year
Oh
where
my
like
God.
the disc was in your hands with the game on the line, like 4 out of 5 games, and it went really poorly, it went really great. Like as the guy who has the disc in his hands with the game on the line, how have you grown from the setbacks and just kind of become more comfortable in those situations?
I mean, I think that's one thing about, we're talking about the experience, like this clock management, just all the end of quarter game situations are just, it just takes some experience. And that stretch of 3 games, it was the Oakland game where I got like emphatically hand blocked trying to throw it to the end zone. And then the Salt Lake game, which was like by far the peak of the season, where I caught it to seal the game. And then we go to Madison and I throw the turnover with like 10 seconds left and then like almost get a D, but the guy catches it behind me. It was just, honestly, it was just so much fun. Like it was just like, and it was funny because it was like such up and down and kind of like devastating and amazing and all these things. But it's just like, it's just such a blast. Like it makes me enjoy like this league, the game, like the excitement that surrounds it. And there's a lot of responsibility that comes with like, being a person that will have the disc in their hands, I guess, at those in those critical moments. But I work really hard. Like I want to be that person if the team thinks it's, the right person to be. And so I accept that responsibility and, just want to do even better in the future and learn from those experiences, which I definitely have.
I I really appreciate and respect that you can look back on that and just talk about how much fun it was and win or lose. Like I know you're not obfuscating yourself of responsibility or even the frustration, but that's a cool mindset to have as an athlete, and certainly more exciting moments are to come, probably good and bad in the future, and you'll be ready for them. The fourth and final guest of the night is a guy that you've had some battles with, both when he was a member of the Salt Lake Shred and now more recently with the Seattle Cascades. And it was another heartbreaker for the summit last year up in Seattle when it wasn't you that did anything wrong necessarily, but the Cascades just made the great plays late. We can
God
welcome
damn
in
it.
Garrett Martin of the Seattle Cascades. Garrett, thanks for being here. Like Atkins, what do you remember about that? Was it low fink to Tommy Lee game winner at
Not
the end
much. I
of?
probably like banged my head into the ground about 5 times immediately after it happened. Also, hi Garrett. Good to see you. I mean, it was just like that was kind of the way the year was going. Like at a certain point, it's like let's just get out of here and figure out what we need to do better. But also, like I think, obviously Seattle showed like they were a really good team, and so I think there's a little bit of humbling that goes into that where again, like I said, we came into the West and we had really good success early, but other teams are really good. They're also getting better. And, Seattle definitely put on a really good game that game and had a really good season last year.
Garrett, I know the Cascades had plenty of fun moments last year. Where does that summit win rank? Yeah, both. Good deal. Um, Justin Burnett, of all people in the comment section, who's going to be on the show in a couple weeks, is saying that he couldn't hear Garrett. So just want to make sure we we make sure we got all that audio.
Shout out Justin for keeping the UFA.
Dude, shout
Yeah.
out Justin.
Jack. He's just a
Justin's
real.
the ombudsman of Live with Lep live.
He's just a
And-
company guy.
Absolutely.
Y'all can hear me though,
Kins,
okay, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
I got you loud
okay.
and clear. Kins, thank you for being here. Always fun to chat. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll talk to you as the season gets closer.
I will. Thank you for having me on, Evan. Garrett, I'll see ya soon.
See you soon, I'm sure.
Yeah. Bye.
Good deal. Fourth and final tonight, Garrett Martin of the Seattle Cascades. What's new, Garrett? How's life in the Pacific Northwest?
Man, not a lot. I mean, we moved recently, not anywhere crazy, just across town to a slightly bigger apartment. But other than that, just trying to get healthy over the off season. I had a pretty injury-filled last season, so dealing with a lot of stuff all year it's been nice to take 3 months and not deal with a lot of stuff. Just train in the gym, try to get back comfortable with my knee, and just feeling like I'm coming into the season as prepared as possible. Whereas last year, I felt like I was trying to play catch up all the way through the end of club season. I mean,
Well, the Minnesota wind chill stole a little bit of Seattle's thunder at championship weekend because they became the biggest surprise of the season. But aside from the wind chill, I think the Cascades doing what y'all did and not just winning the West, but turning around from, I think, 4-8 the year before to, taking Salt Lake to the brink and winning on their home field to deny them championship weekend. I mean, when you look back at the 2024 Cascade season, which I'm sure you've done a lot over the past many months, like what stands out the most about what y'all were able to achieve and what's next?
I mean, I think like you said this in one of the articles you wrote, but it stands out to me that the success finally caught up with what we had been building in terms of on field, right? Like in 2023, we had such a good group of dudes that just love to play together. We're all really committed. Everyone's, an hour early to practice. Everyone's doing their lifts, posting in the chats. And then last year, it felt like all that culminated into a lot of wins. And that was really like rewarding because it's one thing to, just saying you have a good culture and trying hard and whatever. A lot of teams say that, but when it actually feels like you're getting the results you want because of the effort you're putting in, it feels really good. And obviously, we had a lot of close games last year. You look back on a lot of games, and we beat Oakland in a really close game. We beat LA and San Diego in really close games. We beat Colorado in a really close game. We beat Salt Lake in a really close game. And it felt like just a lot of the chips went our way this year. And that's sometimes sports where sometimes you put the best thing you can out there and things go your way. And sometimes you put the best thing out there and things don't go your way. So it felt like it was just a really things came together for us at the right time. And we're building, something really good that's going to continue, I think.
And the underrated thing, like obviously the win over Colorado was great and taking care of business against Salt Lake, but just the way the Cascades went on the road and won. Like I remember Jesse Bolton telling me that your wins at LA and San Diego were the moment when you felt like you really could do something legitimate because those are games that the Cascades just historically has struggled to win on the road for whatever reason.
Yeah, I think prior to this year, I think we won one road game in 2023. And then prior to that, I think there was like some streak that every time we play a game on the road, the UFA would post on their accounts, Cascades have lost 9 road games in a row or whatever.
I've looked up that streak a long time. It's hard to remember, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that it's just different because we're winning those double headers now and they're hard. And like even the one where we played Oakland and Colorado and we split those games, that was a double header where going into it, you kind of felt like a splitting of those games would be a win because both those teams are pretty high level. And honestly, the schedule was pretty bad. We played Oakland Friday night and then Colorado at 2 p.m. on Saturday, or maybe it was Saturday, Sunday. But anyways,
Right.
It's just such a fast turnaround for the amount of travel that was. We got to the stadium 40 minutes before the game, kind of destined to lose that one. And we definitely could have played better than we did. But splitting those games, we felt good about it. We felt good about hanging with Colorado despite a lot of those issues that we were facing. And we felt that, okay, when we get these dudes at home, we're going to take care of business.
As the reigning West Division champions, do you feel like you and your teammates have an appreciation for how much harder it's going to be next year in terms of everybody's coming for you and everybody wants what you got last year?
I mean, definitely. I think the West is becoming one of the hardest divisions to get out of. I'd say there's a lot of teams that could do it. And even last year, right? Oakland looked pretty good at times. Colorado's always good, right? They just had a hard schedule and they had some roster issues last year. I feel like kept them from maybe reaching their potential. Salt Lake obviously has been historically kind of the standard the last 2 years for the West. And then us, and then San Diego even last year went on a streak of games down the stretch where they won a lot of big games and kind of made themselves competitive. So you
One
just
of these
kind of never
years,
know.
Portland's going to show up too. You know, it could be
Yeah,
this year. Who
eventually.
knows?
I mean, they just won Club Nationals, so they got the dudes to do it. You just don't know if they're ever going to put them on this field, right? They never get the guys to play for this team as well. So there's just a lot of, you know, uncontrollables in the West, and anybody could come out. Just depends on what teams have what players, and I don't know. It's exciting to be a part of this division where you kind of know that you're getting a good game most weeks, at least a game that you have to prepare really well for. And that this team could be a playoff team, and that every game could matter. Even the games with Portland, who maybe hasn't had the best roster or the best, results, those games matter as far as wins and losses, and the separation between the first seed or the second seed or the third seed, or missing the playoffs altogether. So every game is super, super important as far as the playoffs go.
About a month ago, where we had Lucas Ambrose on the show, and at that time he was not certain where he would be playing in 2025. But recently, it was announced that he has signed back with the Seattle Cascades. Uh, your thoughts?
I mean, he was pulling your leg for sure. He's known for the whole time. I mean, I'm sure he wanted to build the suspense. Obviously, it's a big name signing, so like, let him have his flowers and let him have the excitement. But he's been a pretty pivotal piece for us this offseason. Not as far as like recruiting other people or whatever, but just like he's been in a lot of talks with players and with coaches and with the other early signs as far as what we want the team to be like this year, identities, some basic strategies, personnel stuff. And so he's been around, and it's obviously been awesome to hear his perspective from a more off the field place than this last year was all on field strategy and just performance based. So it's been cool, and obviously really excited to have him back. Dude's going to get another 25 blocks, I'm sure, if not more. And so he's just going to be a fun player to elevate our practices, keep us competitive. Truly, a player like that can keep you competitive in any game, because it doesn't matter what lead the other team has, as long as we can get him on the field and get a couple blocks for us, we have a good chance at any game.
Garrett, if Lucas is guarding you in a Cascades practice, what do you do to avoid him getting a block on you?
Well, the thing I'm best at is I catch unders. Okay, I can get an under on Lucas. I'm not going deep, no shot. If I go deep and the throw is not perfect, I'm screwed. If I go under, I might, have to drive it a little bit longer and lose a little bit of yards, but I can get it. It's probably okay. We're going out, no shot.
Interesting. And look, we give Lucas a lot of hype, and to lead the league in D's back-to-back years was incredible, unprecedented. And yet you guys are a really good team, and I feel like there are a lot of guys on the Cascades that maybe didn't get the love. I mean, Aaron Wolf, who knew who he was before the season, and I mean, even a guy like Spencer and all these other young dudes kind of finding their own. Who do you feel on your team didn't get the hype they deserved last year?
I'll give you Aaron. I think he was so pivotal for us in finding at least some consistency on offense. When we first got him, we didn't know what to do with him either, because he came a little bit late because he was coming in for an internship over the extended spring. And so he came a little bit late to tryouts, got an extended tryout with us. We knew he was really good. He was getting a lot of blocks in practice. So we kind of said, okay, we'll just throw him on defense. He was doing fine on defense, wasn't really standing out necessarily. And then we kind of just were trying to figure out our handling core and just slotted him in there. And next thing you know, our offense was flowing so much better. His ability to break the mark, change the point of attack, drive the disc downfield to our receivers was something that we had been missing from our consistent reset option too. And so from that point on, he basically locked up his position on the O-line and was very, very important to us the whole season.
I don't know the answer to this question. Is he back in Germany, or will he be back with the Cascades in 2025?
TBD. I mean, he's definitely in Germany. Actually, he lives in Germany right now. I don't know where he is at this moment, but
Sure.
we're trying to get him back on the Cascades this year. It depends on life, you know. Frisbee obviously doesn't pay
Sure.
enough to just, hey, let's take a contract and pay you a livable salary to live here and quit your job at Boeing or whatever. So the hope is that he'll be back, but you just never know what can deal with out of country players. It's a little bit more to work with.
Let's talk about domestic players. Is there anybody? I've heard rumors of pretty good players moving to Seattle with uncertain futures. Are you an active recruiter for the Cascades?
Yeah, I am. It's hard, man. I mean, I've got a lot of people who live here, a lot of people that potentially are going to live here, a lot of people that are going to be around. And but my best thing to do right now is sometimes trying to understand where people are coming from. Like some people have really long seasons with pro and club and Team USA and other obligations, and they want to break from Frisbee. And so I approached a lot of it at the early stage of the off season, just with early messages and just like then kind of left it at that. I didn't really want to keep pestering over the course of the offseason with players who were burnt out. But I'm in a lot of people's ears. Got a lot of other people texting me, hitting my line as well. So there are things in the work. I just don't know what's all going to come out of it.
Cool deal. Last thing before I let you go, I mean, when you think back to championship weekend this year, obviously you fall short in the semifinals against Carolina, but what were the biggest takeaways for you finally getting to that biggest stage, experiencing it? And, I mean, I think it's the most interesting thing about 2025 is all these really good teams like that still have unfinished business and all the good teams coming for them. Like it's a really deep, fascinating landscape right now around the whole league. But what's your perspective, Garrett?
I mean, championship weekend last year was, I don't know, probably one of the biggest highlights of my entire sporting career, just because it was also at home for me. I got to go home and spend a lot of time with my family in the late stages of last season because we went to Salt Lake for the regular season, we went to Salt Lake for the Western Championship, and we went to Salt Lake for championship weekend. So getting to see my family that much at that time of year is so rare for me, living so far away. And so that weekend was so special, regardless of the outcome. Obviously, wish we would have won. That would have been really cool to do that in front of the home fans, but it was just special because not only my family was there, but when I like came out for the semifinal game and they like announced my name and number, there was just a lot more cheers than I was expecting. And I think it just because all the local kids had, grown up around when I was playing in local leagues or for the Shred or college at Utah State. And so I don't know, very, very special weekend. Everyone wants to be there. Only 4 teams get to go, which makes it so special compared to even Club Nationals, which is a special event. But there's what, I don't know, 20 teams a division at Club Nationals. So a lot of teams there versus only 4 at this. And so it's very, very cool to be there. It feels like just a lot more attention on every team. Uh, Everyone's, big stadium full of fans, especially in Salt Lake. I don't know, just an incredible experience. Something that now being there makes you want to, continue trying to get back there even more.
That's a great summation of championship weekend that did not mention the wind, which is usually
Oh,
a hard
God.
thing to do. I mean, you grew up in Utah and like it can be windy in Utah, but that was, I mean, like I've been around people in the past few months and it's a windy day and they're like, "Oh, is this similar to the wind in Utah?" I'm like, "No." Like the wind in Utah that weekend felt historic.
That was. I've never seen that in Utah. I mean, I haven't spent a lot of time out in Harriman where that game was, other than shred games. So maybe it gets windier out there because like at the base of the valley, I don't really know, but that was crazy. I'm glad that for our game it cooled off a little bit because for that DC Minnesota game, it looked like you couldn't even play normal frisbee. You're just chucking it and hoping for the best. At least with ours, there was enough strategy where you could like actually play offense and defense and didn't have to just chuck it, but still was pretty insane.
Did y'all have a different game plan going into the game than you had, surmised in the days leading up to it because of the conditions?
I wouldn't say a ton. Obviously, we weren't going to be dumb, and if we got pinned near our own side going, downwind, we weren't going to turn it over and give them a short upfield break. But once we got to our own game time, even our warm-ups down in the lower fields, we could kind of tell it wasn't going to be as severe and that we could probably just play our normal game plan. And we actually liked our game plan a lot. We just didn't execute it how we think we wanted to. But that's just sports, Sometimes you do
Yeah.
good things, sometimes you do bad things.
It was a fun game. You guys showed a ton of fight that night and certainly earned a lot of fans with the way you played all season long. And just be a few months from now, you'll be back under the Space Needle doing it in front of the fans in the 206 again. Looking forward to hopefully getting out to Seattle myself for a game this year. Crossing my fingers that happens. Garrett, thanks for being a part of the show tonight. and wrapping us up strong. Hope you have a fun rest of your off season, and good luck gearing up for 2025.
Thanks, Evan. Thanks for being happy to be here.
Yeah, Garrett, this has been great. Thanks so much. Garrett Martin of the Seattle Cascades. First show of 2025. I think it turned out pretty well, don't you? Marquez Brownlee from the New York Empire, Sean Mott from the Philadelphia Phoenix, Alex Atkins from the Colorado Summit, and then Garrett Martin from the Seattle Cascades. Thanks so much for being to all of them, and let's talk about what we got coming up next week, as it will be the Jays, Johnny Malks, James Pollard, Josh Wilson, and Jake Rubin Miller. We'll talk with Johnny, who is uncertain about his 2025 plans. We'll see if we can learn a little bit more about his decision-making process. Will he go back to the Breeze? I've heard rumors that he could be out in Seattle. That's a spicy storyline for sure. James Pollard, one of the new members of the Minnesota Wind Chill. And of course, we'll talk to his new teammate, Justin Burnett, who's our key audio technician in the chat tonight. We'll talk to Justin a couple weeks from now. Thank you so much for tuning in, whether you watched it live or after the fact. We're here most Wednesday nights starting this new year. We'll see how long we go, but certainly fun talking Frisbee with really smart, insightful, interesting people. So quick shout out to our producer, Luke Johnson, for pushing the buttons out in the West Coast where he is right now. I'm getting ready to go join him and talk table tennis this weekend. Thanks so much for being with us tonight. I'm Evan Lepler. This has been Live with Lep, first episode 2025. Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week.